It's a horrible place to be. And so this radical truth, this radical honesty is a result of years and years of silence. I want to be as loud as I was quiet.
Hey everyone, welcome to BT Talks. My name is Unique, and today's guest is Emmy Award winner, comedian, documentarian, and artiste, Jerrod Carmichael. How are you?
That was nice. It's the first time I've been called a documentarian and an artiste, and I like that, and I require that from now on.
Because technically you are a documentarian. You
Yeah.
are documenting aspects of your life. And we all know that it's been like different types of critiques about how you've been going about it.
Critique's a nice word.
Yeah.
That's a nice word. People were going crazy.
Oh,
unique.
super crazy. And we're going to dive into it and we're going to talk about it.
Please.
But first, like, one thing I want to ask you about, because I was listening to an interview you did and you spoke about how you were talking to your therapist, and one thing you were struggling with recently was like masculinity, your blackness, and your gayness all at once. And can you just speak on why you felt like you were struggling in those moments about it?
Well, not necessarily struggling with those things, but community. Just being a human being, you seek community in every aspect, and sometimes I felt like an outsider, just even within my own family, or struggling with how to be seen within any individual community, within the Black community, within the gay community. How can I make my presence felt, and how can I show up as my authentic self within the community and still be accepted? And so that's I think that's a part of being human. Still fighting for my right as an individual, but also feeling love for these communities and wanting to feel the love back. So, as an artist, it's something that I deal with in my work a lot. But yeah, and as a person, it's something I talk about in therapy a lot.
So where do you feel like that lack of community started for you?
Well, let's start with family. I think I think that I've always been maybe a little bit different than the other members of my family. I've always had a different approach to life. I've learned a lot from them, and I've always approached things a little bit differently. And so just trying to fit in. I'm still a member. I love them very much. They love me. But I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you felt a little bit outside of a circle that you were in, but you still love the circle, you love the people, but you felt maybe just a little bit outside. I don't think that's a unique experience, but that's one that I've been trying to work through.
And you feel like it became worse when you came out, or?
Well, I in the show, one of those communities is like the Christian community. My mother is Southern Baptist woman in church every Sunday, and to her, being gay is wrong, and a son that's saying I'm gay, it's hard to deal with, because she's trying to answer to God and still accept me, and that puts her in a situation where she doesn't really know what to do, and she's always gonna serve God first, and I have to learn to respect that. But also, I'm her son, and I want to be seen by her, and I want to be respected by her, and I want her unconditional love, and I'm needy in that way. And so that's one community I've felt outside of for a long time, just growing up a Christian and having my view of God being different than how I was taught and my family's view of God. That's something that I've been trying to deal with most of my life.
So let's talk about the unconditional love real quick, because you said she loves you with an asterisk, right?
Yeah.
And that's not enough for you.
No, I'm needy.
But there's other people that have had your experience, and they will even just take the asterisk.
Yeah, and I can learn from them. I need to learn to meet people where they are, but Oh, I don't go down easy. It's not
Oh,
without
we
a fight.
see.
Oh, it's not without a fight. I'm gonna fight. I'll
Yes.
tear everything up to try and get that love, try and get that respect.
So is that why you put the cameras into it? Because I know you said, like, for whatever reason, being on stage, being seen
Hmm.
within that aspect, it helps you be more vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So is that why you put the cameras in the aspect, so you can, like, try to break down your walls to
Yeah,
speak to them?
it's an excuse to have a difficult conversation, to have like an awkward conversation. I mean, when you're just home, right? I'm home, I'm alone with my mother. At times, if I'm visiting North Carolina, there are things I don't bring up because I'm afraid. I'm terrified. I kind of revert back to that child. You see on camera, sometimes when I'm speaking to my parents, like my voice goes up
Mhm.
and I smile a lot and I'm trying to like be the good little boy and I'm not saying the things that I really, really want to say. And the cameras give me an excuse to say, okay, these things are here now. Let's talk about what I really want to talk about. Let's actually dig in. It's an excuse that I'm otherwise afraid to. I'm like terrified. I'm terrified of Thanksgiving. I'm scared at Christmas. I don't want to talk about these things. I don't want to live in the discomfort. I'm terrified of discomfort because everything's about being nice and smile. And from North Carolina, I'm raised to be polite and raised to not be a disruption. Don't rock the boat. But sometimes you gotta just shake shit up.
But do you think that's fair to everyone around you? Because they're okay within that aspect, but you're bringing. I guess it can feel like you're bringing discomfort within their space at times with
Yeah.
this.
Well, because I'm uncomfortable. So yeah,
So everyone has to be uncomfortable?
yeah,
That's not fair, bro.
I know. But hey, listen, whatever it takes, it's a net positive outcome. Because sometimes you got to go through discomfort for comfort, right? And these are conversations that my family doesn't have. They don't bring it up, and I'm afraid to bring it up. So we're at an impasse, right? Like, well, what do we do? How do we have it? And the cameras is strange. It's insane to bring in cameras to your mother, to your father, to have a difficult conversation. But it's the only way I knew how. It's the only way I felt brave enough to have these conversations. And I think the discomfort is for healing. I liken it to if you ever got a facial, you know they have like microdermabrasion, and they take a needle to your face and they like destroy your skin with the hopes of it, you know, to like shed, and you break through a layer and then you're all glowy and shining. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm bringing in microdermabrasion to my relationships, trying to like disrupt with the intent to heal.
But do you feel like radical truth can also lead to manipulation?
Can lead to manipulation?
Yeah. Because the thing about cameras is like you can feel one way about it, but not everyone feels comfortable on camera, so they don't always show up as their true selves.
Yeah.
So they can show up as a version that they will think is pleasing. So I know you want to have these authentic conversations,
Yeah.
but are they really authentic?
Well, can I tell you what's funny is that's how I felt without the cameras. That's what Christmas feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas felt like our representatives was showing up around the table and we're being polite and we're smiling and we're talking about everything else. Like that actually felt more false than bringing in cameras. I know it's strange and it's kind of ironic that a camera and documenting something could bring about truth, but that's what I found it most beneficial, or where I found it most beneficial in my life, that without them, just in everyday conversation and dinner, it's all polite. I mean, you should hear them. It's like, it's very polite. It's very, oh, hey, oh, how's Trey? Oh, yeah. I don't even use my real voice sometimes. I don't, like, I'm afraid to use my real voice. I'm trying to be disarming. I'm trying to be the good son. I'm trying to be polite. And I don't always show up as myself without the camera. So the camera, again, strange, weird, unorthodox, unethical, some could even say, but it is an excuse to show up as my authentic self.
But is everyone else around you showing up authentic?
Yeah, I mean, I know my parents. I grew up with them. My mother is herself.
Regardless.
Oh yeah, no, she's like a soldier for the Lord, and she's showing up for God, and she doesn't change on or off camera. My father, when I asked him to do the show, he knew that I was going to go to some deep and uncomfortable places, because I'd done this before. I've made these documentaries before. One called Sermon on the Mount that I had a conversation with my father, and it's the realest conversation we ever had. And you could see in the conversation, I'm nervous, I'm like rocking, and I'm scared because I kind of turn into the scared child that's like looking to his father for answers and afraid to ask questions because I'm afraid of not even just like physical violence, but emotional violence. I'm afraid.
Wait, before you continue that, does that have to go back to like when your brother confronted your father and his
Ooh, you could do
reaction?
it. Well, oh wow, yeah. So my brother brought up my father's infidelity when he was a kid, because it's a small town, and a friend of his told, I saw your daddy, you know, X and X. And my brother brought it up, and my father beat him. He beat him really, really bad. It kind of beat him into submission, beat him back into that place that we lived in for a long time, like the quiet place. You don't ask questions. You don't question the authority. You don't question the parent. You stay in a child's place. Don't say anything. That's how my brother stayed quiet, and we were all complicit in my father's lies. This when I'm going back to feeling like an outsider, my approach, I confronted my father. I was on a movie set in London, and I called him, and I was like, you gotta tell. But I approached him from a position of power. I was outside of the family. At that point, I was already kind of paying the bills in the house. And so I came from a position of like, no, I'm a man, and this is necessary, and you need to confront these things. And so we, it's different approaches, but I approached it. I found courage in the distance.
But I will say, like, the politeness and the quietness, that's like really a common theme throughout Southern families. Like, there's a lot of things that people don't speak about. Like, even like what happened with your mom and your dad and him having like this side family. Yeah. That's a very common story.
Very common. Very, very common. Both my parents' fathers, it's their story as well. Like it just outside family, you just kind of learn to live with it. But after I came out, I kind of got into this habit of like, okay, well, what else am I not talking about? Like what else? Like I think everybody's in the closet about something. There's something you're ashamed of that you don't want to reveal to the world, in fear of being judged, in fear of people not liking you, in fear of feeling like an outsider. And after I came out, I just was like, what other truths am I not telling? How else can I come out? How else can I confront things that I'm afraid of in my life? And my father's infidelity was something that I was complicit with. I helped him keep the secret. I knew about it when I was a kid, and I was afraid it was going to destroy my family. And I lived with that pain and that fear and that burden most of my life. So it's a horrible place to be. And so this radical truth, this radical honesty is a result of years and years of silence. I want to be as loud as I was quiet. That's hell. That's hell. Just living in silence, like living with it, you can feel it. It manifests itself in strange ways in your life, in your body, in your being. I don't want to live like that anymore. I refuse to live like that.
Have you forgiven your father?
Yeah, I have. And that's the immediate thing when he finally admitted to having other children and the years of cheating. The first thing he asked for was forgiveness. Like, okay, great, we obviously we love you because we want to talk about it, but the route to forgiveness, it's not just quick and immediate. You have to talk about these things, because like if the more you suppress, the more things we have not to forgive you for. You still have to deal with it. It's like you have to deal with the fallout. There's other people involved, there are other families involved, there's still more things to talk about. And I have one of those fathers like, hey, I talked about it, I apologized once, never again. And it's hard for me to live like that. But if left to my father, this all would have come out at his funeral. Like this would have just been one of those like funeral situations where you're like, what's that family over there, who's that lady over there? It would have been one of those strange situations.
Do you feel like there's a better way to go about it? Because I feel like a lot of people feel as if you, from like what I've read, are exploiting your friends and family's traumas in a way.
I'm exploiting my own trauma. These are my own trauma. I'm not exploiting other people's traumas. These are things that I lived with. I kept my father's secret for years. I was in the class. These are my own traumas, right? Okay. These are things that I feel I have a right to share. For people, listen, some of the criticisms are valid. Yeah, like it's strange. I am open to suggestions. I would love to hear their way. I would love to hear. I admit that it's a strange way, but to me, it's like, yeah, I'm bringing cameras. at some point you got to get over that. Okay, this is strange, but these conversations need to be had. The truth needs to be said. I'm using my work, I'm using my career, I'm using all the resources that I have to try and bring my family past shame. Trying to, it's strange and it's weird and it's unorthodox, sure, but this is the way that I found to do it. And everyone is entitled to their way as long as they're doing it. And there are some families that are able to just do family therapy. There's some people who are braver than me that are able to not have those awkward Christmases and those awkward Thanksgiving and those awkward dinners. They're able to like sit with their mother, sit with their father and say, hey, these are things in my life that have hurt me. This is how you've made me feel. And I'm trying to muster up that courage, but the cameras help. The cameras help me feel brave and not like a scared little kid.
All right, going back to wanting to build community, I feel like it's conflicting because like you also showed how selfish you can be when it comes to your friends.
Yeah.
So how do you think you're going to be able to build community when you're also can be a very selfish person?
I'm learning to get past that. I know in the show I put out a lot of things that are selfish and unlikable, but true, and I'm not celebrating those things. It's things I'm actually working on. I'm actually in therapy and trying to be a better friend and talk to my friends about how my selfishness hurt them, and I want to show up for my friends because I've had friends that have always been there for me and have shown up for me, and it's unfair and it's really fucked up, and I don't want to be alone. I don't want to alienate the people in my life with my selfishness. So I am working on it, but I'm also showing it. I mean, these are things that I kept in the show because it's true, and it's it's not always comfortable. It's not always easy, and I think some people relate to me more than they're willing to admit. I don't think I'm alone in selfishness. I don't think I'm alone in these unlikable showing these. I'm showing it, but I don't think I'm alone.
I feel like I will say within that episode, like the wedding, the opening, a disaster, but I think what hit everyone's chord was your way of going about apologizing.
Yeah.
Did you it's because you decided to still wear the same suit?
I know. You know what? And listen,
and that was an issue.
Can I tell you? I don't like black on black, and that's selfish and it's messed up.
Not
with
about
the black
you.
on black with the
not
I like
about you.
It has to have some juxtaposition. It's like I know. You know what's funny? I didn't even really think about the shirt. People were talking about that, like he wore the same shirt. I actually wasn't thinking about. I wasn't thinking about that. That was selfish. I'll give you that. That was selfish. I should have found a black shirt. But isn't it better? But just listen, indulge me. Unique. And it is better though, right? With the white shirt and the black tux, got a little juxtaposition.
I've been in weddings too.
And you have
it's not about you.
I get it. Have you ever worn a fit or something at a wedding that you're like, I don't like this?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
I've been in multiple weddings all the time.
And you're like, sometimes like.
It's not about you.
I know. I'm learning. Give me room to grow. Come on.
But also, do you think it was fair to show up at his front step with the cameras? Because I feel like if the cameras weren't there, he probably wouldn't let you in the house.
No, well, the cameras are actually more reason for him not to let me in the house. The cameras would give an excuse of like, oh, I don't want this, and you could even just blame the cameras. No, he's been a friend of mine for a long time. I also do know these people, and the people in the show they've been in my life for a long time, and as strange and unorthodox as it seems, like the cameras have been involved. That's why it's like all this footage of Pooh, like just the cameras have been around always, like even before the show, and so he's used to that and used to me and used to my way of dealing with things. But and we've spoken after, like his reaction wasn't. He actually pulls out his phone. He's like recording a little bit. Like he brings in his own camera to record a little bit of the speech. It was all true, and it's how I feel about him, and I love him, and he's inspired me a lot in my life. And so,
did his wife forgive you?
I haven't talked to her. I care. I'll be honest. I care more about his forgiveness because it's her day and special, and she deserves to have a special day. But he's been a very close friend of mine for a long time, and I wanted to make sure we were cool. And I hope that his wife and I are cool too.
Did you apologize to Jessica for paying for 1 month's rent?
Jess, You know, people gotta also
Because
realize
that really was upsetting.
that was upsetting.
Yeah.
Listen, rent's expensive in New York.
Very. You put in the most expensive part of town.
And part of the reason too was because the strikes were going on, so it was hard for her to like audition and do more, like actually try and get the career off the ground during that time. So she went to North Carolina, and she'll be back. She's actually been auditioning more and more now. Also, I would like for people to acknowledge that the show is an audition for her. Like, I show her being an incredible actress on the show. As bad of a friend as I've been in moments, I admit to that, I am also showcasing this incredible talent on HBO. I don't want that to be lost on people. Like, I'm not trying to get credit for it, but I'm like, I am also putting her on because she is great. She deserves to be seen, and some good opportunities have come from that, and so I'm thankful for that because she's very talented.
She is good, but then like there's a part within that episode where it gets cringe because you're asking the crowd, at what point do you tell your friend you don't think they're gonna make it?
Well, at what point it's at what point am I responsible? At what point can I relinquish responsibility for supporting the dream is kind of the question, because it is like a personal expense. It's like, at what point, it is a difficult thing. Your own TV, you have your own show. You know how difficult that is. It's like a really hard thing. You're one in a million. You're here like with cameras and a crew and this whole thing, and that doesn't happen a lot, and it's really, really hard. And I'm like paying for the process, but it's hard. I'm like, man, it's a big expense to like support somebody's dream. It's a lot. But that was a question. It is a selfish question.
But did you talk to her about it though?
Oh, we talk all the time. Yeah.
No, about it, because like in that moment, it kind of felt passive aggressive. Because I know that feeling, like when someone's in your space and they kind of overstays your welcome.
Yeah.
But it felt like you never had that conversation with it from what we saw.
Well, because it's hard. It's again, the show is showing conversations, expressing how you feel is hard. It's so hard to say the truth sometimes. It's hard to say to someone, hey, like, I'm uncomfortable with this, or hey, it's hard for me. I'll speak for myself. It's hard to express how I feel sometimes, and it's not the stage and cameras. These things have been outlets for me. It's probably why I chose this career, because I am sometimes more comfortable on camera or on stage expressing things to an audience, to a crowd of people. It does operate kind of like therapy like that. I'm more comfortable expressing things that I'm afraid to say in my day-to-day life. I'm afraid to say it, look someone in their eyes and say the truth. I'm very, very afraid of that all the time. But on stage, it's an excuse. It's a reason to express the truth. I like to be honest on stage. I'm honest on camera because it'll capture the truth anyway. And so it's an outlet for me, and it's been a crutch, but yeah, no, it's terribly unlikely.
All right, so let's speak about Grace real quick, because because I might be wording this wrong, but I know, like, I think at one point you talked about how you felt like your infidelity issues were triggered by your father and his infidelity in some type of way.
Yeah.
Have you ever been able to give your father grace because, like, you're kind of doing the same thing, except for, like, you don't got a side family?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of lucky I'm gay, because I have like 11 kids right now.
Yeah.
The grace comes through understanding. That's why I ask these questions, these difficult questions, because I'm trying to understand myself better through my father. These are you pick up on patterns as a child. You kind of learn how to be in the world through your parents. And lesson that I learned from my father that he didn't intend to teach was to do what you could get away with. That life was about, like, whatever you can get away with, and hey, like, you do that. And that's not always right, and that can hurt people. And I know that, and I take responsibility for that. But and I do give my father grace. Again, these are like, I still support my family. I love my family. I'm there for my family, but I still want answers. Like, I want understanding, and I think that leads to more grace. But you have to talk about things. If you shut things away, sweep it under the rug, put it back in the closet, resentment can build. I feel it. I feel it within me, and I don't want that to happen.
So basically, do you feel like if you never get these answers, then you won't be okay? Because there's a possibility you won't get the answers
No,
you
and I
want.
have to accept that. I'm learning to accept that. I think life would be made better if we were able to be open and talk about things. But if we can't, that's okay. I mean, there's nothing I can do. If I can't get the answers, I can't get the answers. But again, I'm trying. I put up a hell of a fight.
So going back to like vulnerability, so like you open up the first episode, we find out, you have a crush on your best friend. Hypothetically, because I feel like it's a good thing it didn't work out, because hypothetically, if it did, would you be doing the same thing that you're doing to Mike?
Yeah, I think these patterns might have played out in any way. Speaking of grace, I'm thankful to be in a relationship where I'm allowed a lot of grace.
He gives you a lot of grace.
Yeah, well, because I was acting out, I was being childish. Like, it feels horrible to hurt someone. And it feels even worse to lie. I think, like, with cheating, the worst thing, and I don't know how my father lived with it, is, like, coming home and, like, looking the person you love in the eyes and withholding something, not telling them the full truth, not express, because it's uncomfortable for me, like, because now, like, lies beget lies, so, like, now I'm like keeping track. Where did I say I was at? Okay, so I have to remember that I said I was here. Sometimes you involve other people with the lie, like call a friend, like, hey, anybody ask, I was with you, right? And like, it's just like lies beget lies, and then you got to remember that. You hold on. That's stressful, and it chips away at your own life, and it hurts. But like, relationships are about trust. You don't just fall in love, you fall in trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I broke that, and I regret that deeply. I really do. It's no way to live. And I think a lot of my life has been about keeping secrets. I've like learned to love secrets. It's a real messed up place to be in, where you start romanticizing secrets. You start romanticizing, like when I cheated, my boyfriend asked me, do you want to open the relationship or do you need the transgression? And I didn't realize until that question how important transgressions were to me. Like, oh, I'm kind of getting off on the secret. I'm getting off on the fact that no one knows, like, oh, we're doing this and we can't tell anybody. And like, that started to be exciting to me. And that's a dangerous place to be in, because people get hurt in that. And that's something that I'm sure came through those early childhood experiences, came through being closeted, came through the experience of keeping my father's secret. Like, all these secrets in my life just kind of became common and normal, and I started to think that that's what life was supposed to be, that there was supposed to be some secret. There's supposed to be something I'm keeping away from everybody else. Like, that's I thought that was normal. I thought that was okay.
And that's how we got to like this radical approach, which is the TV show.
Yeah, just trying to be honest, like just trying to maintain honesty and not romanticize the secrets, not hold on to things, and not lie to people that I love.
So I know you're like not really involved in like the editing process of all this.
Yeah.
And I know like there was a bit of a controversy recently with the way episode 2 ended. Do you think because I'm not sure who's editing, but I don't know if they look like this or they don't, but do you think like there was like kind of a I don't want to say monotone, but like when people don't understand how an issue can turn into a bigger issue, when it came to like your joke that you're telling about how like you felt like the whole slave master thing, but because you weren't in the room to probably articulate how that might not roll over with all.
I was in the room to say it. I said these things on stage.
But were you okay with it being in the film?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it on stage. It's already public. I'm like saying it, and it's a joke. And people have a right not to like any joke. And I'm a comedian. I say provocative things, and that's part of it. You'd say like kind of dangerous things. You use dangerous metaphor and use uncomfortable analogies. Like, that's just kind of part of the trade, right? To do that. And I was talking about my insecurity, feeling like an intellectual who isn't living up to like this standard. Like, oh my God. And I used a wild analogy that I said myself. So that's not something that the thing that I blame on the edit is that like it got re-reported and manipulated into something that it wasn't. But what I said these things on stage just as a way to express my own. It's about my insecurity. It's about my insecurity. It's something I even say in the joke. I'm just like, yeah, my boyfriend hates that I make a joke like this, and that's part. It was fun in the room, like when I think I said it. I can't remember what venue I was at, but I just remember the reaction from the crowd and people like. That's one of my favorite things as a comedian. You say a thing and people don't know if they're supposed to laugh at it. Like, oh, it's kind of oh, this is wrong. This is so wrong. And that's the excitement. You know, you say something that is wrong.
I get what you're saying, but like even the way you said it's part of the edit, did you not think, I know you said it in this room, but like now it's like on a grander
Oh, that
scale,
it's going to be on television now?
that it's going to be taken in a different type of way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't mind anything that I put in the show. It's ultimately anything that I said in front of the camera, I expect to be in the show. So there's nothing that I'm like, oh, take that out. Don't say this. Like I stand 10 toes down, whatever I'm saying. And there's a lot to criticize. There's things not to like. There's things to criticize. The controversy, whatever you want to call it, was just that a lie was being put out there. And it's like, listen, there's enough truth to dislike. There's enough things to criticize that I'm placing out there about my life. There's enough truthful things to be mad at. And I can't handle a lie being out there.
I get the lie aspect, but I think like the issue was the analogy more than
again,
anything.
you're right not to. I don't know. Like, so what do you want me to say? Like,
No,
people can not. But I will say that was the point, that the analogy is wrong and makes people uncomfortable is why you say it. That's again a comedian. The joke is that we're not supposed to be saying that. This is not something that should be made fun of. I'm not the first comedian to use subject matters or analogies or metaphors that are uncomfortable and wrong. I know that it's wrong. That's why I'm saying it's deliberate. That is a choice, and people have every right not to like it. That I can't control that. Like if you don't like it, sure. But
looking across like all 8 episodes, do you feel like you've gained from this experience emotional intellect, or do you feel like you lack it?
No, I've definitely, it's been a net positive because I've had conversations that I was afraid to have, and it's definitely healed me in certain ways and helped relationships. Even like I'll take my mother. Like I think I understand her better. I think she understands me better. Still a process. Take some time, but I'm very thankful that we were able to have that experience, filmed or not filmed. I'm so thankful that we had a focused time to work on our relationship. Mm-hmm. Like I'm really thankful for that, and so I think that I do have a better understanding of the people in my life who were involved in the show, and I hope they have a better understanding of me. And it's been a net positive. Insane, but a net positive.
So what has the reactions been like since seeing the show? So I know they were in it, but now they see it, and how?
It's sometimes a little bit of a roller coaster. I have sometimes people are like, they respond like oh, I can't believe this is out there. This is so private. This is so personal. Like even for me, not even their stuff, just like you're putting this about your life out there. Like, I can't believe it. And then they come around and oh, I see why you did it. I see why it is freeing. It's out there. It's recorded. It's out there. There's something very freeing about that.
So has like your mom and dad found it freeing in that aspect?
I wish that my mother were able to see me more. That's still the fight.
Okay.
To be seen, to be acknowledged. I desperately need that, and I want that from her.
Why do you feel like you desperately need that?
Because she made me, and I love her very, very much. Okay. And I look out for her, and I care about her, and I've protected her in my life. And
she's not loving you in the way you want to be loved.
Well, I just want her to be able, even the things that make her uncomfortable, I want her to be able to talk to me about it. I want her to be able to express those things to me, and ask me questions. And I wish that my mother asked me more questions about my life, because I wanted her to take interest in my life. I have an interest in her life. I have an interest in what she's doing and who she's with and what she's eating and all these things. I'm nosy, and I want it all, because we had such a strong relationship, and I don't want the truth to get in the way of that bond.
Do you feel like maybe it's not your truth, but a generational thing? Because,
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
older parents that grew up in the South, like, they have a way in which they don't necessarily like to talk about themselves,
Yeah.
especially with their kids.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm supposed to just accept that. I don't know. Like,
But she's working. She's working on it. She's doing her best.
yeah, but through strong encouragement from me. But like, some people are better at that. Some people are way better than me at just like accepting that. Like, yeah, it just is what it is. They don't want to have these conversations. You just got to leave it alone.
So what have you learned from this entire experience?
I've learned, it's a great question. I've learned that there's a cost to being seen, but it's worth it.
Mhm.
Like expressing things that I've hidden for a long time, there's a cost. It can make people uncomfortable, it can be disruptive, but it is worth it. And I feel better, and I have stronger relationships because of it.
Even in such a radical way. Because, like, I'm not going to lie, like, deciding to record is one thing, but to, like, put it on a platform for the world to see.
Yeah.
Why that?
Yeah. No, well, because I've already, I dealt with a lot of shame throughout my life. I always felt like God was watching. So I felt like I was like performing and being watched, and I felt shame and judgment so much. So in many ways, having these things that I've been embarrassed by and hurt by and ashamed of, just like actually out in the world, is kind of validating, because that's how it felt. It felt like that day to day without the cameras. It felt like God was watching and judging me. And now
the world knows.
Yeah.
And it does feel freeing, even with, like,
it's scary. It's scary, and people can say really mean and hurtful things, and that doesn't make me feel good. But ultimately, it's better than holding on to it. I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my body. I don't want that in my relationships.
So, like, how do you move on from this? Because, like, basically you just showed us, like, your shadow work. You're still you're still the healing journey, but you show the rough part of the healing journey that many people don't show, and that's like the shadow work of it all, where you have to like really sit there and dive deep and to see how ugly the insides are and how you have to fix that. Like, what's next within that healing process, and are you going to show that?
I don't know. I wanted to show this because I felt like it could help people, right? Because it's like I felt like there was a lot, and social media encourages you to do this, to show like your problems resolved, or to show strength. You post the Bible verse. It's just like, I can do all things through Christ. And you post these really positive things, and you kind of hide the uncomfortable things. You're not usually incentivized to share those things with the world. And I felt like it could do good in the world to share really like kind of like scary, embarrassing, uncomfortable things. And like, I've gotten messages, and people have stopped me on the street and said things that have made me feel really good and feel validated in sharing those things. Like, that they feel seen, that it's helped them, deal with their families or their relationships, and that's good. That's why I did it. I thought there could be a net positive. If there's more, then maybe. I haven't really been thinking about that. Like, we covered a lot of ground, we covered a lot of ground, and I'm thankful that that's out there, but I haven't, I don't really know what's next. I've been kind of taking it day by day. I wake up optimistic now, thankful.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because I will say, like, when you think about it, growing up within a black household, the black household is very like conservative, and what you're doing is radical within the conservative way that we grow up.
Yeah.
So I think that might be why the critiques are so harsh.
Yeah.
Because like you're doing stuff that technically we as black people don't do.
You're not supposed to do.
Or you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah,
or
I
you're
broke
not
some rules.
You broke a lot of rules.
Yeah, I broke some rules. Yeah, that's okay though. That's
is.
okay. And I want to show that it's okay to break some rules. I'm still black. That's still my family.
But I'm not
These are still
lie.
facts.
You telling your dad, it's crazy, like just throwing it in his face, like granted, and I understand where that came from, but throwing it in the face is crazy that I can't bring a guy into the house that I paid for you guys.
Isn't that crazy though? Isn't that crazy? But for
crazy,
a second, put yourself in my shoes.
No. I agree with you. It's crazy, but at the same time, instead of throwing it in his face, you can just opt to not pay for it.
Well, that's the thing. I have such a loyalty to my family. Even during the time, I mean, we don't have to get into this, but even when we weren't speaking, I don't want to see them struggle, and I want them to be okay. I love them. They are me. So, there's that. But it still hurts. Where you're like, man.
Because, like, right there, it was like tit for tat.
Yeah.
It felt like. And then even before getting into that, showing the picture of Mike, but like a thirst trap of all things.
Yeah, listen, that was a little
childish.
That was a little, a little bit. But that is the radical, like, no, I want you to see all of it. That's me. That is a little childish.
That's very childish.
Yeah, it's childish. You're right.
I will say, it was a hard watch. It was definitely a hard watch. It was very raw. It was very authentic.
How did you feel? Tell me how you felt watching.
Oh, I hated you.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
It was very hard to watch.
Yeah.
And granted, like, I saw your honesty, I saw your vulnerability, but it didn't feel 100% fair to some of the people around you, because you can kind of see their uncomfortability, but it felt like they loved you so much they just fought through it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like they were that comfortable. That's how I felt.
Yeah. No, they weren't, and they were as uncomfortable as I've been. It's a lot of discomfort in the show.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But I understand where you came from, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It is also insane. And my friend Malcolm said that too. He said he watched the whole series all at once. He was like, man, the first 4 episodes, I was just rooting against you.
Oh, yes, well, sure.
Yeah.
Like, I had to stop and take a break.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you finish?
I finished it.
Yeah.
I finished it.
Yeah.
It still, like, leaves open question marks, but, I mean, the first episode's
wild.
Very wild.
Yeah.
Important question. Why did you have to put that on TV? Because I knew that threw everyone for a loop.
You what, just like the foot in my mouth kind of thing?
Yeah, that made a lot of people not continue to watch.
Yeah. No, I knew that. It like I sent it to a friend early on, and he said, I'm at the foot in your mouth deciding if I want to continue. And that was like kind of, but that to me is, hey, if you can get past this, you can keep going. But that's something, again, like any like little sexual thing, any like little kink or something. These are things, people don't talk about that, just like share that. Some people don't share that with their friends. And so there's something freeing about like expressing like kink and things like that. Just, hey, it's on camera. I did it. Like, I don't know. Like, it's funny. I didn't realize how conservative a lot of people were until that. Like, that's such a. It's so funny because it wasn't. I kind of did it and I wasn't really thinking about it, and people were just like, I can't believe. Everyone kind of turned into like my grandma.
That was wild.
Yeah. It was really wild. You should do it. You got to do a reality show. Just go ahead. Just like have those. Do you have conversations? Like, do you have conversations that you're afraid to have in your life, or are you open? Are you able? Because I was afraid. I'm not naturally. I was taught to be quiet and you don't make people uncomfortable, and that's why I'm doing it, because I'm like trying to overcome that. But are you like that? Are there things that are off the table for you, or are you very expressive and you say these things to your friends and your family?
I'm very open when it comes to friends and family. Even some things that may feel difficult.
Yeah.
It depends.
Right. Like, what gave you the courage to do that?
Like, have a voice?
Yeah, well, to share it, to express things that, and to have conversations that may be awkward or uncomfortable.
I guess Because
It
I'm
just
an
kind of,
empathetic person.
yeah.
And I know other people go through things, and I know I'm not alone in it. And I feel like it's the best having a conversation with someone about what you're going through, no matter how hard it is, especially someone you trust, is like freeing and like never being afraid to talk about it.
I'm learning that from the women in my life. I'm like now at this point too, where I'm taking like a lot of lessons from the women. I grew up trying to be my father, my big brother, learning from like the music I was listening to, all these things, like these really masculine lessons. But I'm learning how to submit to the discomfort from the women in my life who are able to do that uh, in a way that I just wasn't. You know, I was like my father, very, you know, shut down. You don't talk about these things. So,
Oh, that's that toxic masculinity.
yeah, no, I know, and I get that, and I would rebel against that term, like the toxic. Why is everything gotta be toxic masculinity? But when it's toxic because it hurts you, like you were hurting yourself, you bottling up. Like I see it with my father.
That's a deeper issue. It's like, I think it's a deeper cultural issue.
Yeah.
That might take time.
Well, look, I want to contribute, as radical as this is, I want to contribute to moving forward. That's what I want to do. And, you know, you could, whatever criticisms about the show, whatever thoughts people have about it, I just know that I'm really trying to break through those walls, and I'm trying to move forward. It's insane and it's radical, but I'm trying.
And my advice, I guess, for that would be like, just don't have fear in doing it when you're talking to your parents. Because in the day, I know you said you like sometimes you revert back to that kid, but you're a grown ass man.
I know, but it takes a while to feel that way. I feel that way at home sometimes.
Now, yeah.
Sometimes like I leave like a plate out. This is my house. I'm paying for it. I leave like a plate out. I can hear my mother's voice. I'm like I'm afraid in my own house. Like it's the things that you learn as a child stay with you as an adult, and I'm trying to. I'm trying to, you know, put my big boy pants on.
You have to remember, like, I'm not that child anymore.
Yeah.
And I have a voice. And what's the worst they're gonna do? At this age, what's the worst they're gonna do? They're gonna beat you, so what's the worst they're gonna do?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I feel like that's like where you probably have to like, once you figure that out, it'll probably be easier.
Yeah, I'm learning.
And it's a process. It's probably not gonna happen this lifetime, but you're trying, I see.
Yeah, I'm trying. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming and talking.
This is really nice. Thank you.